Welcome to Through the Forest Window, a podcast about a place, a legacy, and the lessons learned deep in the woods of Ontario, Canada. I'm Terry Kelly, and I'm about to share with you a story that spans generations, seasons, and the profound connections we forge with the places that offer us retreat from the everyday world. 50 years ago, in 1975, my dad and his brothers built a hunting camp on a property south of Bancroft, Ontario. What started as a simple shelter became something much more, a sanctuary where stories were shared and family bonds strengthened. Then in 2010, when we built the cabin nearby, I started a logbook to document this new chapter in our family's connection to the land. Today, we're going to explore the beginning of a new chapter in that story. In 2010, during what would be the final year of my father's life, we built a cabin on the same property, just behind the original camp. This cabin became more than just a retreat. It became a bridge between generations, a way to honor family bonds, and eventually a sanctuary where I would navigate the profound grief of losing both my parents. What you're about to hear comes from the pages of a logbook I've kept for over a decade. Each entry captures moments both ordinary and extraordinary, from simple afternoon visits to life-changing events. Today's episode focuses on two entries from the spring of 2010, a season that would shape everything that followed. Before we dive into those entries, let me paint a picture of this place we call the cabin. The property lies about 3 hours northeast of Toronto, nestled in the Canadian Shield. The landscape here is a rich tapestry of diverse woodlands. Maples and pines stand alongside towering spruce, fragrant balsam, and timeless cedar. Black cherry, birch, and basswood trees mingle with ironwood and rustling poplars. This varied forest blankets the granite outcroppings and abandoned railway beds, while hidden wetlands and beaver ponds dot the terrain. It's a wilderness shared with moose, deer, black bears, and coyotes, where the seasons are marked by the rhythms of migratory birds passing through. The original hunting camp still stands, a testament to my father and uncle's craftsmanship and creative spirit. What started as a modest shack gradually evolved into something much more ambitious, a structure approximately 90 feet long and 24 feet wide. Being plumbers and tradesmen, my uncles couldn't resist turning it into a playground of DIY ingenuity. They rigged up all sorts of contraptions to pump water, installed a shower and a sauna, and devised ways to power the place with generators, their trade skills and imagination transforming a simple hunting camp into something extraordinary, all without connection to the power grid. In the evenings, oil lamps would light up the spaces, adding to the camp's rustic charm. I can still remember watching them work when I was young, learning not just the rhythms of construction and the importance of level foundations, but also how creativity and technical know-how could turn simple materials into something remarkable. They cut and maintained trails throughout the property, prowling the land on ATVs, creating a map of memories through names that marked their hunting exploits like the Blue Chair, Two Fawns, Flat Rock, and White Birches, each spot holding its own story. When I decided to build my own off-grid cabin in 2010, it wasn't just about having a place of my own. It was about carrying forward a legacy, about creating something alongside my father while I still could. We chose a spot just behind the original camp, close enough to honor the connection, but far enough to forge its own identity. The planning phase with Dad was precious. Even as his health was declining, he was there for the initial design discussions, sharing his wisdom from decades of building experience. He even helped nail together the foundation, his final hands-on contribution to the project. I documented every step of the process on video, capturing these moments and the entire first year of construction, footage that would later become a cherished documentary of our journey. After that, his health wouldn't allow for more physical involvement, but his influence remained present throughout the build. While I managed the project and took on what construction I could myself, I also worked with contractors who helped with the framing and other aspects. Family and friends pitched in throughout the build, making it truly a collaborative effort. Every decision we made, every nail driven, whether by my hand or others, carried the weight of both present and future memories. Spring Awakening, May 23rd, 2010. Let me share with you the first entry from our logbook, dated Sunday, May 23rd, 2010. Back then, the road to the cabin was too rough for my sedan, so I'd often park in a nearby hamlet and bike the 4 kilometers in along the old road. It's actually fitting that this first entry captures one of those bike rides. It offers 2 perspectives from the same day, one from my 10-year-old niece Emma, who joined me on the ride in, and one from myself. The contrast between her youthful observations and my own offers a unique window into this pivotal time.
Me and Uncle Terry biked in from the church on our bikes. We made it to the cabin at 1:10 p.m. and we left town around noon. When we got here, Uncle Don and Aunt Jermaine were having lunch at the nearby camp. We are having lunch, we are having chips, pop, and hot dogs.
Emma's entry captures the simple joy of a Sunday afternoon visit, but what strikes me now, reading it years later, is how it represents the cabin's role in bringing generations together. That afternoon, I taught Emma some finger picking on the guitar, another thread in the fabric of family traditions being passed down. My entry from the same day adds context to what was happening in our family at that time. It is a sunny day today with some cloud. The bugs are not too bad, only bad when the sun was not out. Emma played some guitar, and I taught her how to do some finger picking. At home, Dad is not well. He was admitted to the hospital yesterday for stabilization. Mom seems to be recovering well from breast cancer surgery. This entry captures a moment of transition, the joy of teaching Emma guitar against the backdrop of my parents' health struggles. It's a reminder that life at the cabin has always been intertwined with the full spectrum of human experience. A time of transition, June 2nd, 2010. The next entry comes just 10 days later, on June 2nd, 2010. The world had shifted dramatically in that short time. Visited the camp and cabin today with Mom's brother from New Brunswick, Uncle Delore. Dad passed away May 27th at 1:07 a.m. with Uncle Jack at his side. His funeral was yesterday. Today's weather was warm. The mosquitoes are a bit bad. Grass and perennials are growing, with some perennials being eaten by something. Delore and I walked to the beaver pond, and I took a photo of the stump of Dad's last maple tree he cut down for firewood for the cabin. That maple tree my father cut down became more than just firewood. It became a symbol of his final contribution to the cabin, his last physical mark on this place he loved so much. Dad loved working in the woods. Cutting firewood and cleaning brush were more than just chores to him. They were a connection to the land. My sister told me a story that captures just how much this meant to him. Near the end, while she was driving him to an appointment in Peterborough, they passed someone on their property cutting wood. It was at that moment Dad realized he would never be able to do that again, and he broke down and cried. At his celebration of life, we included a photo in the slideshow of the last stack of wood in the shed. We called it Joe's Last Cut of Firewood. The room erupted in applause and cheering. It was such a special moment. Everyone there understood exactly what that final stack of wood meant. The stump still stands there in the forest behind the cabin, and every time I hike past it, I'm reminded of him. Today, when I stack firewood or light the stove, I often think about that maple tree and all it represents. Reading this log entry from that June day, when my Uncle Delore had traveled from New Brunswick to support my mom, his sister, I'm struck by how the cabin has always been a gathering point in times of need. Family connections, whether through Ontario's maple trees or my Acadian roots, have always been woven into the fabric of this place. The timing of these entries, capturing both the last days of my father's life and the early days of learning to live without him, speaks to something fundamental about this place. The cabin has always been more than just a structure in the woods. It's a container for our stories, our grief, our joy, and our healing. These two spring entries from 2010 mark the beginning of a new chapter in the cabin's story. In the years that followed, this place would become a sanctuary for processing grief, for creating new memories, and for discovering the profound wisdom that nature offers to those who pay attention. In future episodes, we'll explore more entries from the logbook, traveling through the seasons and years, witnessing how this place has shaped and been shaped by the people who've spent time here. Thank you for joining me for this first episode of Through the Forest Window. Next time, we'll dive into the summer entries of 2010, exploring how the cabin helped our family navigate that first season of loss and renewal. Through the Forest Window is written and narrated by Terry Kelly, supported by artificial intelligence technology. The theme music from this episode was written or recorded by Terry Kelly, derived from years of voice memo recordings, unreleased material, and works in progress. Special thanks to Emma Little for reading her logbook entry shared earlier in this episode. Tracy Fenton provides artistic direction support, and Ken Tizard masters all podcast episodes.